If you're able to summon Ojama King in Duel Links, do you just win? What's up, everybody? I'm AwesomeNES, and today I wanted to do a neat little thing where I show you some common misconceptions about when you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! There's a few things that me and my friends, and even people I see at locals, just struggle with sometimes, and like, it seems like you're able to do something, and maybe you're not, or maybe there is something you can do, and you just don't know whether or not you can. So I'm here to answer 10 of those questions for you guys. Let's get started with the first one, the one I've actually seen the most, graveyard effects. Now, when are they allowed to activate? A lot of the times I see people try to activate graveyard effects during their main phase, during their opponent's main phase, excuse me, and or even during the battle phase in order to prevent themselves from taking damage. Now, there's a few things that, like card erratas, you always need to see if you have the most up-to-date version of the card to see if it's changed. And there's a few other things that that could always affect it as well, whether or not the type of card says it's a quick effect. Or if it says it can activate during the player's turn. That's always one thing. But can a graveyard effect activate during your opponent's turn? And just typically the answer to that is no, unless it says that it can. Moving on to number 2, there are card effects that activate, or monster effects that activate during battle, and sometimes it's a little confusing to understand what battle is. And I've gotten a question before, is if a monster attacks the opponent directly, or a player directly, is that still considered battle? And yes, actually, yes it is. So that's good, again, like I said, for activating monster effects that activate during battle. Number 3, can a monster unaffected by card effects have its summon negated? And yes, if you summon a monster that can't be affected by spell or trap cards, or even monster effects, whatever, just completely unaffected, but you negate the summon, it's stopping the player, not the monster, in a way. The player just cannot summon that kind of monster. So yes, that does work. Number 4, if I have a monster in face-down defense, can I flip it into face-up defense? The answer to that is no, sadly. There are a lot of times that I would like to have certain monsters be in face-up defense position. If you have some kind of effect that you want to use, but you just can't do it because it's face down, maybe it has low defense and low attack, and a lot of times you just want to get that thing out in defense position so you can use it. Because it doesn't get rid of itself or protect itself, and you just don't have protection there for it. So, sadly, that is a no on that question. Moving on. Number 5, can I special summon a monster in face down defense? No, to an extent, unless a card or effect says that a monster can be special summoned in face-down defense. You cannot special summon in face-down defense. Now, Crawlers, for example, that's one of the decks I play that I really enjoy. Their field spell does allow you to, once per turn after you conduct a normal summon, or actually, I don't even think you have to conduct your normal summon, just in addition to your normal summon, you can also special summon a level 2 or level 3 insect monster in face-down defense. So, there's one exception. Another thing I've gotten into before is this question right here, number 6. Do counters target? Like when you place a counter on a monster, especially I played Cubics for a while. When a monster would attack Vijin, the Cubic Seed, he can be put down into the spell and trap zone to place a counter on the monster that just attacked it. And since it's not, like, it is a monster effect, but it is not actually targeting the monster, it just simply, this happened, so now it has a counter. So, no, counters do not target, they are placed. One that's gotten really confusing is the difference between selecting and targeting. So that's the question here. Is a selection the same thing as targeting? Not always. You see, there are some cards that say target, and then there are some cards that say select, and like previous versions of the cards, like because of erratas, used to say select and now say target. They're just apparently a difference. It's pretty hard to determine sometimes. Stay up to date on your cards. That'll really help you know whether or not it's going to actually select or target. But typically, selection is not targeting, because if you have a monster whose effect triggers when it is targeted, and you select it, that effect does not get to activate because you selected it instead of targeting. So words are very important in Yu-Gi-Oh! And you'd think selection and targeting is basically the same thing, which it is, but it is not the same thing. And like I said, unless there's been an errata that says this, like the selection now is target. So, no. Number 8 goes back to a question we had earlier. If your opponent controls a card that prevents them from taking battle damage, and they have, say, no monsters on the field or whatever, can you still attack them? And the answer to that is just yes. Again, it just kind of goes back to, like, even though they're not taking the battle damage, your monster's effect that activates during battle can still occur if it meets the right conditions. Another question about opponents controlling cards that prevent them from taking damage. If they have a card that prevents them from taking battle damage, can effect damage from a battle still affect them? And the answer to that is yes. If you have a monster like Odd Eyes Dragon, if you destroy a monster by battle, you can still inflict that damage to them because of its secondary effect, which reads, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the original attack of the monster in the graveyard. So after it destroys a monster, you can still inflict half the damage of that, half the attack of that monster as effect damage. And finally, number 10 is, can you target a monster that can't be affected by card effects, even if the effect you're activating that targets the monster does not directly affect the targeted monster? And I know that's a lot to take in, but say you have a monster that just is completely unaffected by effects for some reason, either by its own effect or by another effect that's preventing it from being affected, and you have another monster that could either gain attack through targeting or just gain something off of targeting anyway, but it doesn't actually affect that monster. Can you use that to gain the attack or whatever? And no, because it is targeting, that counts as an effect, and you cannot target that monster. And that's confusing, I know, but it's Yu-Gi-Oh! That'll do it for this video today, guys. I will see you in the next video. Until then, see you next time.